Hi everyone, Ryan from Masuva here. Today I wanted to demo a system that we've been developing over the last year, something that we've used on a few real projects, but I've also been working on as a sort of a separate entity. It's a calendaring system specifically for Concrete5. I wanted to show this system in a video because it's a little bit different from other calendaring systems out there. We sort of rethought the way that we would approach the problem of adding calendars to websites. Often the approach is to buy one of the existing add-ons for Concrete5 or embed something like a Google Calendar, but we found that the kinds of reasons we needed to embed a calendar, those things didn't quite fit the final product that we needed. They weren't flexible enough, so we re-evaluated the way that we were handling things like dates and the way we were managing that data, and we've come up with this solution that I'll show you today. What this is it's more of a toolkit for building event-driven information, more so than a standalone package that you install and it just does everything straight away. The idea is that the code I've written is something that you would install as a package, but then it gives you a helper and some very simple to style blocks that do the heavy lifting in terms of the date calculations, but it's not really styled up in any way. And today in my example I've styled it up just so you can see the events, but this is not the styling that would come out of the box. It'd even be simpler than this. So just to talk about the reason why we approached rethought the way we would handle calendaring systems is that there's a few things that we found that were always a little bit clunky with the things we were already using, and one of them was the actual date input, especially when it came to recurring dates. If you look at something like iCal or a lot of the systems where you have to put in recurring dates, we found that this was just really clunky, confusing, and the systems that we set up, date systems with, our clients really didn't use them. They found them intimidating, and so we wanted to solve that input problem. One of them was the flexibility of the templates, and I've already sort of mentioned that we wanted something that was as flexible as the page list block to style and output. We found that we also wanted to be able to differentiate different events, and we really like using the composer to create different page types representing different entities in a system, and we wanted to do the same thing. So let me explain roughly how this works. What I've done is I've set up a composer page, and I've really just called it an event, and there's nothing complex about this. This is just a page type that's been set up, and I've got this posting underneath events. And what this package does is it sets up a very, very basic attribute called event dates. Now, this is not a custom type or anything. This is just a text field, and it also creates another attribute here to help with some settings down the track. So the way that this works is that you go in and you add a new page as you would any other page in the system using Composer, but when it comes to actually entering the dates, you enter them into this text box here. And we thought about this entry, and we thought, well, what format do people use when they are thinking about dates? And there wasn't an actual official answer for that. Some people will think in terms of month first or day first. Some people will think in terms of the words for the month. Some people will think about the numbers. We thought, well, could we make it so it intelligently handles a date? So just for reference, today is the 14th of December 2013. So I could, for example, put in 14th December 2013, or I could put in 12 2013, something like that. Keeping in mind that's sort of European format. American format slightly different. Or I could put in something without. I could put in 14 December and put the full word, 2013. I wanted it so that you could almost cut and paste a list of dates from an email, because often that's the case, is that you'd be sent some information, someone just has to copy and paste some information out of an email straight into the system. And I thought, well, okay, that's one approach. But the other approach is that to do multiple dates, including recurring dates, we really looked at the different ways that people were using them. And it's very rare that we found that people were doing something like, I would like the exact same event every day of the year, or every week of the year, or even every second week of the year. It was normally something where someone would say, okay, this event is happening 3 times over the next few weeks, or it's happening over a period of time, maybe twice over the next few months. So the idea to build a very complex system that handles very complex recurring date patterns for events on a website really didn't seem to make any sense to us. So we thought, what if we kept it really, really simple and said, just say this event is on today, the 14th of December 2013. It's also on the 21st of December 2013, and it's next year on the 1st of Feb 2014. Now there's our recurring events. We haven't had to work out patterns, but it's also very clear. And anyone that is entering this information would be able to read that very quickly. But also, it's in a format that they're comfortable with. I could also combine the format, so I could say the 7th of March 2014, and I'll enter this one now, say multiple dates, and I might just change this here just so it's a bit more useful, and the event with multiple dates, and I hit go, and that creates my event page. It lists my events here, and I've got a helper to actually go and fetch that information and spit it out uniformly. See how that's actually now month day format, even though I use different formats. And at the end of the day, it's just an attribute here. But where the complicated part of the system is that once this date is in the system that way, I've built a block that's very much like a page list block that will list events with templates based on whether or not they're in the future, they're currently on, or something more complicated like the jQuery full calendar. So in this example here, I've put in a whole bunch of events already. I've put one in that's showing current event, so this is currently on. I've got some future events, some that span time periods. This one here spans multiple days, and so you might end up with a format like this. So you can use the word to or a dash. And what I wanted it to do is that if you put in dates by themselves, dates with times, dates that are spanned a period of time with or without times, I wanted this system to understand when to show things. So you might have on the home page a list of things that are currently on and future events, and you might have another page that shows events that are in the past. And ultimately, all this is just a particular block. I've just called it a calendar block, and it works. I'll show that again. It works like the page list block. You can pick a page type, so I could actually have multiple different kinds of event, and all I'd need is that attribute on that event. And I've got a series of templates, and I could expand these, but you can do things like show all events that are starting or sometime today, or on the current month, or the ones that used most of the time are ones that are currently on. So are we in the middle of an event, or is it on today, or is it something that's happening right now or in the future, and to change between the calendars is just simply a matter of changing the template. So let's have another look. I've got the events here the main thing too is that it needs to show these in an order that makes sense. If you've got events that are overlapping, so if we look at the events calendar, I don't really have anything at the moment that is overlapping, but if you've got something that has started and then you've got another thing that's started, you need to make sure that you put the most recently started event first. Little considerations like that when you're just building a calendar by itself, it's not so much of a problem, but when you're actually talking about presenting dates and events on a website, you need to present it in a way that's most useful. So I've got that working quite nicely, and in the dashboard I haven't really created a dashboard page, but I've got a little help page to show the kinds of date formats that the system will take, and you can see there's a whole range of different passable formats, dates with times, so you can do things with or without the PM, and date ranges. And what we've found is that we were initially concerned that such a loosely validated field, well, basically a field that isn't validated, could be a concern, that you could put in a date and type it slightly wrong and the system can't understand it. Well, that's true, but at the same time a date can be entered with a highly validated date picker, but you simply type the wrong date. So we haven't found that there's been any real concern about people typing things wrong, because it won't break the system, it simply won't show up. And when people are going through the process of adding a new date or new event, they add the event and then they check that it's showing in the calendar the right spot. So they're sort of checking themselves, not only that have they typed it in correctly, but have they put in the right date. We considered doing some things like doing recurring dates by not specifying things like years, or doing things like daily events by not specifying the date. We just simply found that there weren't enough reasons to do that, or there weren't enough cases where people on websites were needing to do that. Most people were doing one-off events, school events where it might be the end of term, it might be things where it's a concert or some sort of event. Normally, 95% of the time they're individual events with specific start and end times, or there's something that might occur a few times. So we've found that this has worked really well. On the actual event page, where we've got the date being output here, I've got a helper function. So to actually set up this system that we're looking at here, with the output of these dates, the events calendar and the composer form, really only took me about 5 minutes this morning. I installed the package and I wrote about 3 or 4 lines of code on my events page to actually output the name of the event, the description, and use the helper to go and fetch the information about the event. We've got this system running on a few sites already. Probably the most interesting one is the Mission Arts website, and as you can see, this is a live site. They're heavily using the system at the moment. We've split it up so that they've got major events and workshops. So the workshops are in the yellow, and we can go backwards and forwards in time to see that they're very actively using this, and they're putting in some events that are big spanning exhibitions. Some of them are specific workshops that are at certain times, and you can see here's one here that's been done multiple times, and you can see there's the specific dates for that event. And they're doing really well with this one. On the home page, we've got a list of upcoming events, and you can see that the older ones have fallen off and the next relevant ones are coming up. The computer workshop here and this one are on the same day, but this one's being shown first because it's earlier in the day. And it's all those little details like that that make this really we feel much more useful than a lot of other date systems that seem to sort of ignore the subtleties of the ordering and it ticks over every day, or it ticks over every minute really. And we've got exhibitions on the right hand side. We've got a couple of images being pulled in. This is just a normal page attribute that's been attached to the exhibition page type, and that gets pulled in as you would say with a page list block. But probably most interestingly is that you don't have to show a complete list of events. This banner here at the top is actually our calendar block showing one of the either current or upcoming exhibition. So there isn't an exhibition on at the moment. Oh, sorry, there is one at the moment. It's from in November, and it's up to just before Christmas here, and that links through to the page that goes into the details about the exhibition. So we've set this up so that there's multiple files that can be associated with it, and that's why it creates this banner. So what happens is that as they add more exhibitions, or they add the future ones in, this banner itself will automatically tick over and change to show what's on. So there's no mucking around with turning things on and off. This system is configured so that all that the client uses is the composer and adds their events and exhibitions, and it takes care of updating these lists and also updating these banners. We do have more archival things as well. So this is more of your traditional list. You can see we've sort of interleaved the events, but that's still working as well. Currently on, and these are the upcoming ones, and we've got the past events, and it's listing these here, and you can see that there's you can still go back and find the previous previous information about the page, because it's just a page, but yeah, it's very date driven. So that's our event system. We haven't packaged it up for the marketplace yet because we're still sort of using it and getting a feel for the issues that it might have, and it's also something that really isn't something can be installed and just works out of the box. You need to be a developer to use it. But what I really was hoping for is maybe a bit of feedback, some questions, some ideas. And if you are a concrete5 developer and you're needing a more complex date-driven event system for your site, and this does look like something that you might need, feel free to contact us and we can work something out. Cheers.